The funny thing is that I can't see this shadow without the help of a mirror or a camera. And that is the tricky part with shadow work. When I first heard about shadow work years ago, I had no clue what it was. I had no idea what I'm supposed to do. People kept telling me that, yeah, you need to do the shadow work, you need to integrate your shadow, but how am I supposed to know what my shadows are? And now, years later, I finally understand what shadow work is and how to actually find your shadows with a system called Gene Keys. This is gonna be the theme of this video on how to actually find your particular shadows and how you can turn them into your gifts. As the famous psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In this video, I'll show exactly how to use this system and how you can practically start upgrading your shadow frequency into your gifts, and by doing that, excel in life and business. To make things clear, let's define what shadow work actually means. It's integrating the part of ourself that are hidden, our shadows, that we usually don't even want to admit to ourselves. And that is because of trauma or shame or guilt or fear or some other external thing, a split in the psyche, that then results in unconscious patterns and habit that essentially rule our life, but we fail to see because it's something that our ego wants to keep out of sight. It's a protective mechanism. It's ego defenses that tries to keep us safe by blocking out some of these traits and parts of ourselves because they feel too painful. And there probably was an event in the past that triggered this split in your psyche that basically means that your true, authentic, vulnerable self went hiding somewhere in the unconscious, and that's when ego defenses and triggers come up. The problem here is that we won't ever reach our full potential if we aren't brave enough to becoming vulnerable and to actually showing these parts of ourselves and integrating, accepting these shadows. That's how we become full. And this is how we get to our full potential, by including the light and the dark, the good and the bad. And once that happens, it's beautiful. And that's when you become magnetic. You can think of shadow work as hidden potential in your character in this game of life. And to actually transcend and move forward in life to get to the next level, we have to upgrade the character itself. It's not enough to try to find external strategies and things if the character strengths aren't evolving. And this is essentially what shadow work is finding more of those character power traits. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Another one of Carl Jung's quotes. And it's really important to remember that shadows aren't bad. And the society wants us to think that they are bad and that there are bad people and there are good people. And this is actually keeping us stuck. It's a limiting belief that something is bad and something is good and that we need to evaluate and compare these things. Once you realize that shadows are just a part of you and that you accept that there's also negative traits and parts and habits and patterns that are you, then it becomes easier to let them in. And that's when you can start to raise the frequency on a cellular level. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And to become who you truly are is to integrate both sides. We need to put the light and the dark together, and this is where we find ourselves in our fulfillment. Okay, so now you understand why you need to do shadow work and what the benefits are of it. Now let's go in the computer and I'll show you how this gene key system actually works. So here we have the genekeys.com site, and here we want to go to free profile. And to access your Gene Keys profile, you need to enter your name, your birth city, and the time of birth, because this is tied to astrology. And the idea is that your chart is made the day, the moment you are born. It's the trajectory your soul came into Earth, because when you take your first breath, that's when you actually activate your life. So I'm gonna fill in this information and I'll show you what it looks like after. Okay, so this is the profile. And at first, it might seem a bit confusing and overwhelming, to say the least. This is a system that you really want to take your time with. And yes, they have courses and explanations on how this works, but in general, we start with your genius, and this is called the activation sequence. These are the 4 primary gene keys that rule your life, and what you can find here is your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. So, my life's work, the shadow of fantasy, the gift of anticipation. What does that mean? Okay, so here we can click on this. And now I can see what this gene key 41 is about. And then there's this dot 2. So there's a line 2. And I can read here what fantasy means and what anticipation means. What's the gift found in the fantasy shadow? And then we come to the city. That's basically the enlightened state that I don't think too many of us should be concerned about or trying to get here at the moment, because what we want to focus on is to raise the shadow frequency into the gift. And what the line is always something from 1 to 6. There are 6 different lines in every gene key, and the line tells you the particular mode which this gene key of yours is playing out. So just to give you an example on how this has played out in my life and how this has worked, is the evolution. This sphere is basically how you can start to ignite your life's work. And for me, this shadow is arrogance. And believe me, when I saw this, I did not want to face this shadow of me being arrogant and what arrogance actually means. Sometimes it's playing small just to act stupid or something like that. And being arrogant is not a thing that anyone wants to be labeled as. Once I sat with this for long enough, and once I truly embodied what gifts there may be in arrogance, I came to leadership. This is one reason why I'm doing these videos today, why I stepped in to being a guide, being a teacher, being someone who wants to help other people. In my 20s, I couldn't give a shit about anything external. It was about me. I just wanted to surf and skate and snowboard and do all this shit. But now I became a father, and that really woke me up to the realization that life isn't just about me, and life is more about how we can serve other people. And that's why I'm here teaching this to you today. To make this even more deep and vulnerable, I want to share the purpose gene key that I have. And this is another one that nobody wants to have, and it's the shadow of selfishness. And as I said, when I was younger, I didn't really care about anyone else. And sometimes I acted that I do. And I've had to sit with this shadow and really feel the pain and feel the shame and guilt and these negative fears that comes from confronting these shadows. It's not easy. And this gene key has the gift of altruism. And this is also a part of why I'm doing this work that I'm doing at the moment. I understood that there's a reason why I have gone through difficult times in my life, why these gene keys are given to me. I'm here to help other people because I realized that life is not just about me. Everything in life is interconnected. And just to give you a perspective, before I stumbled upon these gene keys and this profile, and there's a book that really goes deep into all these shadows, gifts, and cities, and the whole story about the gene keys, and I really highly suggest that you should read that book. But for now, it's enough if you go through your profile on this website, because they have such a beautiful system on how you can really start to do this internal work by yourself. But as I was saying, I had no clue what I wanted to do in my life, what I needed to do in my life. How could I feel a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose? I was lost. And that was the result of like 7 years of self-development. And I felt that the more I learned about self-development and all these tactics and books and courses, I just got so confused. I got so confused. And when I found this system, it gave me sort of a direction in life, what to follow, what the possibilities are, what I can start improving in myself. So this system, it's a tool that can help you realize more potential. It shows you where you have more potential to grow your game character, to grow your stats. And that, I think, is beautiful, because when we realize that we need to upgrade the character to actually reach the next levels and to be able to play at the next level, then you have a clear goal. You have a clear path. Oh, I need to improve myself. I need to take care of these shadows. I need to integrate these shadows. This is how you reach your potential. So I invite you to really go through this whole profile. There's this genius that I showed already. Then there's love. This is about your feelings and your childhood, and go deeper into this. Then there's prosperity, how you will prosper. It's basically how you become more abundant. And then there's the latest, that's harmony. You basically tune yourself into the right tuning, like a guitar or a piano, that you start sounding amazing. This is something that other people will recognize in you. Once you transcend your shadows into gifts, you will become naturally magnetic because you will become authentic. You have gone through the path of actually seeing your shadows, admitting that they're there, and finding the gifts in those shadows. We're not supposed to remove anything. We are supposed to find the bits and pieces that are actually helpful in that shadow, and that then becomes a gift. And the biggest pitfalls I've felt in this gene key system is that when you have to face these shadows, shame usually comes up. It's like, no, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be codependent. I don't want to be doubtful. I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be selfish. And you actually have to face the shame. You have to be vulnerable enough. You have to be brave. You have to have courage to actually look yourself in the mirror, the shadow, and be okay. This is what life gave me. And if I accept this, I allow this in, I accept it. And when I can embody this, you integrate the shadow, that's when all your gifts will rise to the surface. And this is the whole point with this video, to help you get closer to that fulfillment on the inside. It's like Richard Rudd says, owning your shadow is the only way to transcend it. This sums up the whole Gene Keys teaching pretty well. Okay, now you know how the Gene Keys system works and how you can find your own shadows and how you can start to transcend them into gifts and eventually maybe cities. Now let's look on how this may affect your business and life in general. For most people who are entrepreneurs, we are constantly in stress, we are constantly worrying, we are constantly in some kind of fight or flight. But business doesn't have to be like that. Business can actually be smooth sailing. Once we start to raise our core frequency, raise enough of these shadows into the gift frequency, we actually start receiving better information. You can think of your brain as a radio receiver. The higher your frequency is, the better insights and opportunities and perspectives you will have about your business. It's like you can't even see the things in reality that become possible once you elevate your frequency. It's like you unlock hidden things in your reality that are there all the time. You just can't see them because you are operating from a shadow frequency, from a lower frequency level. And this is why even if you have the best strategies in the world, you have all the hacks and all the tools, you are not able to use them at your full capacity if you don't upgrade yourself. And when you upgrade yourself, you can even benefit from the not optimal strategy and the not optimal tools and still succeed better than you would if you are operating from a low frequency and having all the best tools. And the reason for this is that we all see and feel frequencies. When someone is in an elevated state, even if they are using just the most simple tools, they are magnetic. People are drawn into them. People get curious. Oh, what's this weird thing about that human being or that business or that product? So the frequency you are and you put into all your products, programs, whatever you are selling, it makes the biggest difference. Just to give you a practical example, imagine that you don't waste time worrying anymore. You feel that, wow, I can handle this. I'll make the decision and I start to work. You don't waste the hour of thinking about how should I do this. You feel that, wow, I'm enough. I can handle this. I know myself. I know my traits, and I'll just do this thing. I'll start the project. I'll do the video. I'll write the script, whatever it is. How much more will you get done if you could remove the doubt cycle? All the time that you spend doubting yourself. How much more could you get done? This is the most practical example on why raising your frequency and integrating your shadows, it frees up time. It frees up more potential. You can actually advance much faster by doing this internal work. It will affect everything in your life, even your close relationship, your business, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your parents, your community. Everything gets better once you step into your true self unconditionally and you accept it. And with time, others will accept it too, and you will draw in the right people that will elevate your life to the next level. But there is one thing you need to be aware of, and that is the addiction to shadow work. And this is something that I've gone through myself, is that when you start digging deep into yourself and you start looking into all these shadows, it very easily feels that you're this loser and that you have to do a massive amount of work, and then you start with doing the work and it feels like an endless journey that will never have a finish line. That's not what we want here. We want to slowly start to integrate these shadows. We don't want to become addicted into shadow work and thinking that we can't do anything else because now we have to do this internal work. That's not the point. The point is to do it simultaneously while you keep on living your life and you keep on messing up, making mistakes, losing control, feeling emotions, doing all these things that are normal for humans. And then when you made a mistake or something like that, you had your shadow come out and you realize, wow, this was a shadow that came up. And then you realize that it's okay to be flawed. Okay, now you remember that next time this shadow comes up, maybe you try to make it a little bit less intense and you try to transform your behavior. And slowly but surely, when you do these mistakes and you bring awareness into those mistakes that, wow, I could have made this better, that will then result the next time you face a similar challenge, you will remember even just a tiny bit more awareness in those situations that, wow, this is not how I want to react. And you actually start to respond. This is a sign that you're getting closer to the gift frequency. So be compassionate with yourself while doing the shadow work. It's not that you want to jump into this shadow realm and just live there until you've cleared everything. I'll tell you, shadow work is probably gonna be a lifelong journey. It's just different level, different nuances, different subtleties. So give yourself permission to be perfectly imperfect. That's what it means to be a human. We are not supposed to be machines who are perfect and polished. Now we come to the last part, and I'd say this is one of the most important ones. When doing shadow work and really wanting to integrate and really wanting to transcend these frequencies, you need some kind of mirror. You can use the mirror on the wall if you spend enough time in front of it and you actually encounter situations where you get triggered and your shadows come up and so on. But that's not really handy, is it? So the best thing is if you have a partner. And my experience with shadow work, I've been with my partner for almost 8 years. And the amount of shadow work reflections I've gotten from that relationship is invaluable, because I have someone who calls me out on my bullshit, because a lot of the times my ego defenses wants to block the situation that I don't want to admit this to myself. I don't want to be vulnerable, especially if there's an argument or something. But to have someone that I trust tell me that, hey, this happened again, or did you notice your behavior in this situation? Those nuggets of information are super valuable. And this is why shadow work with a partner, a coach, a therapist, someone who you feel trusted with, I truly believe that's the most important part. Because let's imagine that you're doing the shadow work all by yourself. It's really easy to have this, I don't know how to phrase this, grandiose illusion. You have this illusion of yourself that you are better than you actually are in those day-to-day situations when it comes to kids and partners and work and like general events in life. We like to think that we are somehow in control all the time. But when we get triggered and when those shadows actually come up, a lot of the times we fail to see that it was just a shadow pattern that come up, and we need to just give more attention, more awareness, more light into that dark place. If you want more information about working with me, there's a link in the description that shares the complete process and all the details and how you can apply. If that's not for you, I highly suggest that you find someone that you can actually trust and that you can start to go through these shadows with. And you start by just allowing them to be in your life. You don't have to accept, like if you have the shadow of arrogance or selfishness, as I do, you don't have to accept right away that it's true. But when you sit with these for long enough, and when you contemplate and you think about your past and how you behaved and all this, you slowly start to get into this acceptance state. And once that state has been there for long enough, you will actually transcend the frequency and you will get into the gift. And that feels amazing. But until you get to this place, be really kind to yourself. Be compassionate. Think of yourself like the 8-year-old child or the 4-year-old child who was just like, wow, there's nothing wrong with me. Why are all these people mean? Why is this world so cruel? But try to imagine yourself as the little kid. Sometimes we need to be the parents we always wished we had and start parenting ourselves. Shadow work doesn't mean that you become this great and strong person. For me at least, it has meant that I've become more soft. I've become more compassionate, empathetic towards myself and also towards others, because once I realized that I can be softer towards myself, it naturally transfers to the external world also, because our inner world is the reflection that we see on the external world. So whether you choose to work with me or not, please find yourself a safe space, one human being that you can start discussing these things with and really open up and be vulnerable. And I know it requires a lot of courage to actually put ourselves out there because of shame and guilt and all these other negative things that we don't want to feel, because we might get disconnected from our tribe community, and that's just a survival part, how we're built. Be compassionate, trust in yourself, love yourself, and realize there's actually nothing wrong with you. Thanks for watching. My name is Mitz. I hope you have an amazing week. Peace out.